In this video, we're going to go over acids, bases, and the pH scale. And you can see here's an example of the pH scale. It goes from 0 to 14, and we have some things that are called acids, some things that are neutral, and some things that are bases. And what do they mean, and why are they important in biology? We're going to go over that right now. So we said that water is a covalent molecule, but we also said it's polar covalent, meaning it has this charge separation. But water can also act like an ionic compound. It can dissociate into two ions. When it does that, it can form a hydrogen ion and a hydroxide ion. And you can see that if we have water and we're splitting it into these ions, if we have the same amount of hydrogen and hydroxide ions, we have a neutral substance. We have something that we'll say is a pH of 7. If we mix water with something like vinegar or carbon dioxide, they mix together and they cause water to release more hydrogen ions than hydroxide ions. And we say that things that do that, produce more hydrogen ions when mixed with water, are acids. Then conversely, if we mix water with something like ammonia or lime, calcium oxide, it releases more hydroxide, OH ions, than hydrogen ions, and we say that it is a base. So that's why we give them the numbers. Don't worry about what 0 to 14 means exactly. We'll get into that. You'll get into that in chemistry next year. Just understand basically, if you have something with a pH of 7, you're talking about something that has an equal amount of hydrogen and hydroxide ions and that is neutral. Anything with a pH less than 7 is going to be an acid, and a 6 would be a weak acid. Going to 0 would be a very, very strong acid. Pure hydrogen ion would be, or very close to pure, something about a pH of 0. Going above 7, we have 8, 9, these are weak bases, all the way down to 14. That's a very strong base, like oven cleaner. It's pure sodium hydroxide is a very strong base which will burn your skin. So extreme acids and extreme bases are very damaging to living tissue. You can't survive in an extreme pH. You've probably heard about acid rain and acid precipitation and how damaging that is to organisms that live in lakes and streams that are getting that. And that's got a pH of about 4. So you can imagine if you got more acidic than that, it'd be death. How do living things maintain a constant pH? Well, internal homeostasis requires that they can keep the pH constant, and there are chemicals that are produced by living things called buffers that help regulate internal pH. So a buffer is basically something that if the pH is getting too low, the buffer will bind to the hydrogen ions and keep the pH from getting low. Or if the pH is getting too high and there's too much hydroxide ion, it will release hydrogen ions to balance that and keep the pH within a very narrow range, which is important again for living things. So an example of this in your blood is carbonic acid. Carbonic acid, if there's a lot of hydrogen ion in your blood, it's getting too acidic, it will absorb that hydrogen ion. If there's not enough hydrogen ion in your blood, the pH is getting too high, then it will release hydrogen ion. So you can see it's a reversible reaction where it can either release the hydrogen ion or absorb the hydrogen ion to form carbonic acid. And that's how buffers help regulate our blood pH and keep our blood right around pH of 7 so that we can survive. And this is just a quick overview of the pH scale, acids, bases. So when we do the pH lab this week, you'll have a pretty good idea of what these terms mean.